One of the deepest Buddhist truths is this: nothing that is truly yours will pass you by. Opportunities arrive when conditions are ready. People enter when hearts are aligned. Lessons appear when the soul is prepared. Worry comes from believing you are falling behind. But behind what? Life has no universal timeline. There is only your unfolding. The lotus does not rush to bloom, yet it blooms perfectly. So will you. Worry never lives in what is actually happening. It lives in the mind's habit of leaving the present and rushing into imagined futures. Nothing is wrong with this moment. The breath is moving, the body is supported, awareness is awake. Yet the mind searches for danger, rehearses outcomes, and tightens around what has not yet arrived. The Buddha taught that suffering begins the moment we argue with reality. Reality does not ask for approval. It unfolds according to causes and conditions. The present moment is not cruel or kind. It is neutral, complete, and whole. But the mind overlays it with judgment and comparison. This shouldn't be happening. I should be somewhere else by now. Something bad is about to occur. These thoughts feel convincing, yet they are not insight. They are resistance. Resistance is the root of worry. It is the quiet refusal to allow life to be exactly as it is right now. And the mind mistakes this refusal for protection, not realizing it is creating the very suffering it is trying to escape. When you gently return to the present, not to fix it, not to improve it, but simply to meet it, worry begins to dissolve. In this moment, you are breathing without effort. In this moment, the body knows how to live. In this moment, you are safe enough to listen, to observe, to be. Peace does not arrive when every problem disappears. Peace arrives when you stop demanding that life follow the mind's fearful timeline. When you stop resisting the present moment, life stops feeling like a threat and begins to feel like something you can finally rest inside. Worry grows strongest when the mind believes it must control everything. It monitors the future, calculates every possible outcome, and tightens around the idea that if it loosens its grip, something will go wrong. The Buddha taught that this urge to control is not wisdom. It is fear wearing the mask of responsibility. Life does not move according to personal preference. It unfolds through causes and conditions far larger than the thinking mind can track. When the mind tries to command what cannot be commanded, time, people, change, uncertainty, it creates tension, not safety. Control feels like strength, but it is actually exhaustion. The tighter you hold, the less clearly you see. The more you force direction, the more resistance you meet. The Buddha compared life to a flowing river. A river does not argue with rocks. It curves around them. It does not worry about the ocean. It moves forward because movement is its nature. Your life flows the same way when you stop trying to dominate its course. Letting go does not mean becoming passive. It means releasing the illusion that peace comes from control. When you trust the unfolding, energy returns to the body, clarity returns to the mind, and solutions appear without strain. The moment you loosen your grip, life begins to cooperate, not because you forced it to, but because you finally stopped standing in its way. The mind worries that it is falling behind, that something essential has been missed, that life has taken a wrong turn. But the Buddha taught that nothing arrives by accident, and nothing meaningful is lost without purpose. What is meant for you does not rush, and it does not announce itself. It moves toward you quietly, carried by time, shaped by readiness. The flower does not bloom because it is anxious to be seen. It blooms when the soil is warm, when the roots are strong, when the season is right. In the same way, your life is not delayed, it is ripening. Worry arises when you compare your path to another's timeline, when you measure your becoming against imagined standards. But there is no universal clock governing awakening, love, or fulfillment. There is only the precise unfolding of causes and conditions unique to you. The Buddha taught that attachment to outcome blinds the heart. When you stare too hard at what you want, you fail to see what is already moving toward you. Opportunities slip past unnoticed. Lessons remain unheard, because the mind is busy searching for a future that has not yet arrived. What is meant for you cannot miss you, because you are becoming the person capable of receiving it. Every delay strengthens the vessel. Every detour refines perception. Every moment of uncertainty prepares the ground. Trust does not mean knowing what comes next. Trust means allowing life to meet you where you are, without force, without fear, without demand. And when what is meant for you finally arrives, it will feel strangely familiar, as if it had been walking beside you all along. When the mind is constantly moving, life feels chaotic. Thoughts overlap, fears multiply, and every small uncertainty feels urgent. The Buddha taught that this sense of disorder does not come from life itself. It comes from a restless mind that never pauses long enough to see clearly. Stillness is not emptiness. Stillness is clarity. When you stop reacting, stop chasing answers, stop rehearsing futures, something subtle begins to happen. You start noticing that many problems soften on their own. Situations shift without force. Questions resolve themselves without struggle. The mind believes it must do something at all times. But the Buddha taught that wisdom often arises when effort ceases. Like muddy water settling when left untouched, the truth becomes visible when you stop stirring it. In stillness, you see that life has been quietly supporting you all along. The body knows how to breathe. The heart knows how to heal. Circumstances rearrange themselves in ways the anxious mind could never predict. This is why monks return again and again to silence, not to escape the world, but to understand it. In silence, patterns emerge. In quiet, timing reveals itself. In stillness, you realize that much of what you feared never required your intervention. Stillness does not stop life. It aligns you with it. It allows you to sense when to move and when to wait, when to speak and when to remain silent, when to act and when to trust. The Buddha taught that right action flows naturally from right stillness. When the mind is calm, decisions are not forced. They arise effortlessly, like a leaf knowing when to fall. If you feel lost, do not rush to fix your life. Pause, sit, breathe. Let the noise settle. Let the urgency dissolve. Let life show you what it has been arranging while you were worrying. In stillness, you discover a quiet truth. Nothing important has been neglected. Nothing essential has been forgotten. Life has been working, patiently, intelligently, faithfully, the entire time. The mind worries because it believes what hurts now will last forever. It takes a temporary moment and turns it into a permanent identity. The Buddha saw this clearly and taught anicca, impermanence, not as a cold philosophy, but as a doorway to relief. Everything that arises is already changing. Every thought fades, every emotion moves, every circumstance shifts, whether the mind agrees or not. Yet worry clings to the illusion of permanence, tightening around the present as if it were a life sentence. The Buddha taught that suffering deepens when we forget this truth. We tell ourselves, "This will never end. I will always feel this way. Life will always be this hard." But these statements are not wisdom. They are fear pretending to predict the future. Look closely at your own experience. Where are the worries you carried years ago? Where are the fears that once felt unbearable? They passed, not because you solved them perfectly, but because change is the nature of existence. Impermanence does not mean nothing matters. It means nothing needs to be gripped. When you stop clinging to moments, pleasant or painful, the heart becomes lighter, more flexible, more alive. The Buddha compared attachment to holding a burning coal. You suffer not because the coal exists, but because you refuse to release it. Impermanence gives you permission to open your hand. When you remember that everything moves, worry loses its authority. You stop demanding certainty from a world built on change. You stop asking life for guarantees it cannot give. This understanding softens the mind. It allows sadness without panic. It allows uncertainty without collapse. It allows joy without fear of loss. Impermanence teaches a quiet confidence. No matter what arises, it will pass. No matter what you feel, it will transform. No matter where you are, life will not remain stuck here. When this truth settles into the heart, worry no longer feels necessary. You meet life with openness instead of defense. And in that openness, peace becomes possible. Not because life stops changing, but because you finally move with it. Fear speaks loudly, constantly, and with urgency, convincing the mind that every uncertainty is a threat, that every delay is failure, that every silence signals loss. It demands immediate action, yet it does not clarify what action is needed. It only pushes, pulls, and tightens the chest with imagined emergencies. The Buddha taught that fear is not wisdom, but a conditioned habit, a learned reflex created by memory, imagination, and attachment to control. Fear arises when the mind forgets that it is not required to manage life's unfolding, when it mistakes anticipation for protection, when it treats what might happen as if it is already happening. In this way, fear becomes both a teacher and a tyrant, convincing you that vigilance is safety while quietly eroding peace. When the mind obeys fear, the body becomes tense. The shoulders lift unconsciously, the breath becomes shallow, and the heart races, preparing for disasters that may never come. The mind narrows its vision, filtering the world only through what is dangerous or urgent, while ignoring the evidence that life has always carried you through uncertainty before. The Buddha pointed out that this habit is the root of unnecessary suffering. We do not suffer because life is unpredictable, but because the mind reacts to its predictions as if they were truth. In listening to fear without discernment, you reinforce a cycle where anxiety feels necessary, where every pause or unknown moment is a threat, and where the natural rhythm of life is mistaken for instability. Trust begins when you learn to pause and observe rather than immediately respond. It begins when you notice the familiar voice of fear. Recognize its stories. You are not ready. Something will go wrong. You might fail. This is dangerous. And instead of obeying, you see them as what they are, passing thoughts, not commands. You do not have to act on them. You do not have to believe them. And you do not have to let them decide the quality of your present experience. In this pause, the space between fear and response opens, and awareness begins to reclaim its natural place. The Buddha taught that thoughts are events, not identity. And in recognizing this, trust finds its first seed. The realization that fear has no authority unless you give it one. From this pause comes remembrance. You recall every moment you once thought unbearable that you survived. You remember seasons of uncertainty that eventually shifted, challenges that seemed insurmountable but passed in time, and fears that promised disaster but quietly dissolved. This memory is not nostalgia. It is a living proof of resilience. Each instance you have survived life's uncertainty without breaking is evidence that you can endure again. Trust grows here, not because life promises safety, but because you remember your own capacity to meet the unknown and remain whole. The Buddha taught that wisdom arises from direct experience, not from endless mental calculations. Each time you choose to breathe instead of panic, to remain present instead of rushing ahead, to observe instead of reacting, you weaken fear's grip. You learn that awareness itself is more powerful than imagined threats. Calm, deliberate action begins to emerge effortlessly, not because fear has vanished, but because fear no longer dictates every movement, every decision, every breath. The mind begins to discover that clarity comes not from control, but from presence, and that life unfolds more smoothly when you stop forcing it with anxiety. As trust deepens, the need for certainty loosens. You stop demanding guarantees from life. You stop believing peace is conditional on outcomes, circumstances, or timing. You begin to understand that the path does not require perfection, only presence. When fear no longer dominates, you feel a quiet steadiness. Decisions are no longer urgent, and problems no longer seem like threats to survival. They are opportunities to practice patience, discernment, and calm. Life starts to feel like a river that you can float upon rather than a battlefield you must conquer. This trust is not loud or dramatic. It does not erase uncertainty or promise a smooth path. Instead, it is a subtle, patient knowing that life can be met as it is. It allows you to rest inside the unknown without gripping or resisting. And in that resting, the mind softens, the body relaxes, and a deep sense of peace arises. You realize that life has been carrying you even while fear whispered otherwise. You understand that the present moment is sufficient, that breath itself is an anchor, and that every challenge can be met with clarity rather than panic. Peace was never hidden in the future. It was always here, beneath the noise of fear, waiting for you to stop listening to its lies and come home to this moment. The mind clings because it fears loss. It holds tightly to outcomes, to plans, to expectations, believing that only by controlling every detail can safety and happiness be secured. The Buddha taught that attachment is the root of suffering, not because life is cruel, but because the mind grips what is never meant to be held. Letting go is not an act of weakness. It is the courage to release the illusion that you must force life to conform to your desires. In this release, a subtle miracle occurs. The world begins to open to you in ways you could not have arranged, in ways that were quietly waiting for your hands to unclench. When you stop resisting life, you stop opposing the natural flow of events. You stop suffocating the present with endless planning, with imagined disasters, with demands that life be different from what it is. The Buddha taught that the moment you let go, the universe begins to meet you halfway. Opportunities that seemed invisible now appear. Guidance that felt absent now speaks softly. People, circumstances, and answers align, not because you controlled them, but because your presence created the space for them to arrive. Letting go is not about giving up on dreams or abandoning responsibility. It is about relinquishing the need to manufacture certainty. It is about trusting that life has a rhythm, a wisdom, and a timing far beyond the anxious calculations of the mind. Imagine holding a cup too tightly. The liquid within spills or cannot be poured when needed. Release your grip, and suddenly, the cup functions as it was designed to, flowing naturally. So too with life. When you release attachment, the path clears, solutions arise effortlessly, and the heart breathes once again. The Buddha said that freedom arises not when the world bends to your will, but when you bend to the flow of life. This flow is not weak. It is not aimless. It is precise, intelligent, and responsive. When you let go, you do not surrender to chaos. You surrender to clarity. You surrender to trust. You surrender to the unfolding intelligence of existence that has been guiding every step, even when you could not see it. In letting go, you discover that you are enough. You realize that your worth is not tied to outcomes, achievements, or approval. You are enough simply because you are breathing, because awareness is alive within you, because life has carried you to this very moment in all its uncertainty, and you are still standing. When you release fear, resistance, and attachment, a profound ease washes through the body. A quiet certainty arises in the mind, and the heart finally remembers what it has always known. Everything you need will arrive in its own time, in its own way. Letting go is a practice, not a destination. It is not a single moment of surrender, but a continual return, a gentle, patient choice to unclench the hands of expectation, to soften the chest of worry, and to meet life with openness. The Buddha taught that life unfolds perfectly when the mind stops forcing, when the heart stops demanding, when presence replaces control. In this gentle surrender, life finally meets you. And in this meeting, you feel it, the deep, unshakable truth beneath every fear, every uncertainty, every anxious thought. Life is not against you. Life has never been against you. Life is quietly, patiently unfolding in your favor, carrying you toward exactly what you are meant to receive, exactly where you are meant to be, exactly who you are meant to become. Let go. Stop resisting. Stop holding so tightly. And notice, the world opens, the path clears, and everything, all of it, is quietly, perfectly falling into place. Take a slow, deliberate breath and feel the weight of worry begin to soften, not because life has changed or because the problems have disappeared, but because your mind has finally stopped resisting the present. And in this stillness, you realize how much energy you have been giving to imagined fears, to stories that never existed, to outcomes you could not control. And now, as the shoulders relax, the chest opens and the heart remembers its own capacity for presence. You sense the quiet truth that life is not chaotic, life is not cruel, and life is not failing you. It is patiently unfolding in ways too subtle for the anxious mind to see, arranging people, circumstances, and experiences exactly as they are meant to. And in this awareness, you understand that nothing essential has been missed, nothing truly matters to be forced, and everything you need is moving toward you. Silently, intelligently, perfectly, and you can finally rest without striving. Breathe without tension and exist without fear, knowing that peace is not waiting in some far-off future. It is here, it is now. It has always been within reach, and all you need to do is let go. Unclench your hands, trust the flow, and watch as life, beautifully, quietly, unfailingly, falls into place exactly as it should.